Meeting. And if you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, can I have roll call, City?
Counselor Dunsmuir. Here. Counselor Hughes. Here. Counselor Lidkey.
Here.
Counselor Strobel.
Here.
Counselor Tenbush.
Here.
Mayor Drinkwine.
Here. Thank you very much, Sadie. We are at the first citizen and community group comment, and I have two here. So I will start off with the first one. I have Kurt Schweigert. State your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
This is going to be really short. My name is Kurt Schweigert. I live on Shepherd Street here in Estacada. I know we're talking a lot over the last few months and few years about lowering house prices in affordable housing. And didn't lowering the minimum standards on lot sizes backfire in Campanella? That's the only question I have. I think that it did. So I don't necessarily think that lowering lot sizes is going to bring down a housing price, especially when building materials are at the highest point in history. So that's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next on my list, I have Brandy Licky.
Hi there. I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time to mention this, but in the workshop, a community member reached out to me and asked me to mention this for you guys to think about when discussing parking spaces. I know the new building over by Ace, I believe Ace has been having some issues with people parking in their spot because there's not enough parking spots. So maybe think about that before limiting parking spots is just my comment. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. There was one more she was filling out. Did she want to speak now or did she want to wait? Okay. All right, we are moving on to the consent agenda. You've all had a chance to read it over. On the first here, I have a proclamation I'd like to read. And it's a very great story. I don't know if any of you have read through it, but if you have, it's an honorable thing. A man has done a lot in his life and he's at 100 years old. We all hope to do half of what's on his list. I find it extremely inspiring when I read it, and I will read the proclamation at this point. So. We need to approve it first. No, not yet. Okay. I will start with, whereas Al was born in Portland, Oregon in 1922, and at the age of 19 joined the U.S. Army following the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And whereas from 1941 to 1945, Al served in the U.S. Army and was honorably discharged. However, he continued to serve the country and humanity abroad in Liberia, Bolivia, the Amazon, El Salvador, East Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and I think it's the Sultan of Oman, is that right? And Ethiopia for the next 45 years. And whereas after returning to the US and permanently retiring in Estacada in 1990, Al continued to serve his country by volunteering hundreds of hours at the Portland Veterans Hospital, visiting patients and boosting morale by handling any treats and phone cards, actively volunteering in his church, and until a stroke in 2020 slowed him down. And whereas since 1990, Al has been an active member in the Estacada community and 74-year member of the American Legion. 74 years, that's amazing. Now, therefore, I, Sean Drinkwine, Mayor of Estacada, along with Estacada City Council, in honor of Al's first 100th years, the man, the myth, the legend, do hereby proclaim Sunday, August 14th, 2022, Al Faust Day in Estacada, dated this day, 8th day of August, 2022. So we thank you. And if you want to come up here, maybe we can take a picture. If that's okay. Let me come around there.
This is Al's son, Ray.
Al's not able to be here tonight. All right. Sorry. Well, I just wanted to say thank you all, Sean and Carrie and all of you for very extraordinary honor. That is the reason why I'm doing this meeting. If the community sees it important to do something like that, I figured I should be here.
That's right.
So I need to I need to some time. A quick story. Dad was, excuse me, I don't know, turn there. Dad was born in Oregon, went to Parkwood High School. He got a job as a civil engineer, went overseas to Africa. My mom, who was born in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, became a missionary nurse, and she went overseas to Africa to be a missionary nurse. Dad got hurt. He went to the hospital. They met, ended up getting married. From around the world, came back to Oregon, bought the farm in Wildcat, and he's lived there since. So
I bet you gotta tell me, you're gonna make a movie. You gotta make a movie with this.
I didn't when I was in Africa, Lopez got me. Dad was in Bolivia. I just was an engineer. They had the rest of my brothers and sisters. I was actually talking with the family. I'm from South America, Bolivia. And they went to Bolivia and they went to the South Formal Child. They went to Bolivia, picked up a group of kids and took them for ice cream. And my mom said, how do we decide who was going to go? Well, apparently, I was the one that got sick. Took me in the car. So my dad was really nice, a very remarkable man, very intelligent, and my mom and dad. I wasn't very good. But yeah, my dad lived a full life, done a lot of stuff.
That's right.
And thank you very much.
Well, he should be very proud of you, and we appreciate it.
Oh, I very proudly move to approve the consent agenda.
All right, great, thank you.
second.
We got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you. And thank you for that. That was a warming story. Okay, we are at department and committee reports. So I will start off with you, Jerry.
What do I have to report?
You don't have to come up with something.
No, the DEIC is doing some really good work. They went over the zoning code today. Had some really good questions, really good discussion. You know, they really are doing some good work. Things are starting to come together for them. Arts Commission's got a lot of events coming up. It's going to be exciting. Look to see those. They're getting them put on the city Facebook page and then the city website. So just, you know, nothing really big, just good work going through both committees. So.
Great, thank you. Katie.
I got nothing, but I do want to say great job to the Arts Commission for the art and pub crawl or the art and music crawl that happened on Friday. It was really cool to drive around Estacada and see all the different areas where people were set up with different kinds of art and music. And it was just, I thought, a really awesome event. And I just wanted to say good job to the Arts Commission.
Thank you, Katie. Paul.
Library met with them this week. Just real quick, numbers are going up. They are seeing a great in return to the library, and then also seeing library card numbers going up as well too. It's getting to the point that they are looking to further expand their hours, possibly once school starts in September. And then also met with the Planning Commission, but I think we'll be chatting about that later this meeting.
All right, great. Joel.
The DEC tried to meet on Monday, but they didn't have enough to make a quorum, which kind of brings me to a notice trend I've seen recently that some of the different committees have had lower attendingship. And I was wondering if something that we could put on a discussion to try to improve that the attendance on there by maybe when we have new or committee members that are appointed, give them some sort of recognition document from the city saying, so-and-so was appointed to this committee and something they can be proud of and put up on their wall, having an annual, volunteers meeting, something like that, that gives them recognition for the work that they're doing and allows them to know that we're thankful for them. So to see what we can do to try to get the attendance up and then, be selective in our choice of who's put in those to make sure that they're going to be, asking the question, are you going to actually attend the meetings? Because if we don't have people attending, it's not going to do us any good as a council because we won't get the feedback that we need, or the events won't get the attendance that they need and stuff. So, but other than that, nothing to report.
And I think that's a good idea. I think we've had that discussion about enhancing our commissions, finding a way to bring them together. I think if we have, another summit where we can bring them all to the table and see, we all differ in ideas. And I think getting those ideas out for all of us might help us and help them as well. But I think honoring them too is a very important thing because the work they do is very important. So thank you. Charity.
School board meets this week, so I will have a full report next meeting. I will say that the new field is still chugging along and no, I don't think any major hiccups from some emails that I've seen have occurred. So still moving forward and hopefully it's all ready to go by our first home game. So I'm excited for it.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. I have nothing tonight, so.
Okay, I just want to share that the filing period for the city council positions are open to get on the ballot. The deadline is August 25th. So there's the mayor position is open and 3 counselors. And don't wait till the last minute to turn in there's a process. So you have to turn in paperwork and then collect signatures and they have to be approved. So anybody who is wanting to run should go ahead and get on that right away. Because everything has to be completed by 5 p.m. on August 25th. So just wanted to share that. And
Just for clarification, those petition sheets, after people have filled them out and they've got their signatures, do they take those to the county or do they bring them to the city? Okay.
bring
Because
them to the
that's,
city.
that was my hiccup that happened when I ran, was I had my petition, like my signature pages, and I brought them to you and then you.
No, the voters pamphlet goes directly. to
Oh,
the
is that
county.
what it was?
Yeah.
It's the voters
Yeah.
pamphlet. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
And that was
okay.
a hiccup because you came right at the deadline.
Right at the
Yeah.
deadline, and I had a half hour to make it to Oregon
Yep,
City and I
yep.
made it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So there are a lot of details. So anybody considering running, get in touch with Sadie in the front office and make sure that all the details are getting taken care of to eliminate stress. Okay, that's all I wanted to share right now. I don't know if Taylor is ready.
Okay.
All right.
Great. So we are now in the public hearing. So part of this, so I'm going to read the first one.
I have a question on
Sure.
order here. Yeah, the annexation is up first, but the attorney is calling in 10 minutes. Is that, do you think, should we wait
You want to wait till he,
until we talk do we want to change the orders of these or? Okay. It might be 10 minutes or it might just be a few minutes.
okay, so you want to do that? So
Yeah, let's do the third one.
the third,
Sorry about that.
real
our-
property transaction. No.
Yeah,
which one?
the alternative sale of city-owned property.
Okay,
public
got it.
hearing.
All right. Okay. We will now close the city council. I will open the public hearing for an alternate sale process. I will now read this. I will now close the city council meeting and open the public hearing on alternate surplus property process. Do any of the members of council wish to abstain or declare ex parte contact? I'm not seeing any. Okay, the council will now hear the staff report on the proposal. You want to do that?
Sorry about that.
We don't really have a staff report. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's just, we just need to open the public hearing.
Formality and just.
Yep,
Close it.
and
Okay.
listen if anybody has any comments, and I don't have any request forms for
Yeah,
that.
so I will read the rest of this then. Is there any correspondence regarding the application? No, I'm not seeing any.
Nope.
Does any member of the audience wish to speak on this proposal? I have no speaker form, so I'm assuming not. Does the staff have any additional comments or a response to the public testimony? There will be none. At this time, I will now close the public hearing and open the city council. So,
Okay.
I'm still in a quandary on the timing of this. What happened is, our city attorney also, advises the city of Scappoose. Scappoose, right? Yes. They had a power outage last Monday, which is their meeting. So he's at their meeting tonight because they had to postpone it. So he's trying to call us at a particular time, but I hate to have Taylor get started. But can you be interrupted to go into a different? Not really.
Well, if I started the marijuana amendments public hearing, then I could be interrupted by Peter.
Oh, then you could, oh, yes, yes.
Okay,
Then you could be interrupted.
So if we.
All right, so yeah, now we're gonna do B. We're doing this in reverse order. So we're going to do B under public hearings. Ordinance 2022-007 and ordinance amending certain chapters. I'll let you read that.
okay,
We'll go to
so
that one. Hold
then
on.
I will read the public hearing
Okay,
notice, okay? I will now close the city council meeting. And I will open the public hearing on, which one are we on? I'm
the
confused. 'cause
I know, I'm
You
so
guys are going
sorry.
back and forth
The
there.
ordinance, do you have? does he have one?
Ordinance, which one?
B.
B.
Oh, okay,
Got it.
ordinance 2022 -007, an
Yes.
ordinance amending certain chapters entitled 16, the development of the Estacada Municipal Code. Katie, do you have something? before?
I'm so sorry. Are we done now with 5C or are we going back to 5C?
I think
We're done with 5C for the public hearing.
Oh,
When we
okay.
get to council business, then you can adopt the resolution.
Okay,
Or
okay.
approve the resolution.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Do any of the members of the council wish to abstain or declare ex parte contact? No, not seeing any. Okay, the council will now hear the staff report on this proposal.
Okay. Once again, should I wait for Zoom issues?
We just want to make,
Oh. Okay, no, that's fine. Alrighty, hello again. Okay, so in your packet, you have both the council cover sheet staff report and the land use staff report regarding the marijuana retail code amendments that you've all been working on for a long time now. So there are a few different reasons why we are recommending that the council continues this public hearing, which is in layman's terms, postpone it basically, but officially continue it to Monday, September 26th. So the reasons for that are basically, number one, the planning commission had some concerns about the current wording of the amendments. They were unanimously uncomfortable recommending approval as it is written. So they voted to table their hearing to a later date, which is now scheduled for September 15th. Second reason, staff, in response to that, we did quite a bit of digging through our own code on public hearings, the state statutes on public hearings. We also talked with Clackamas County Planning Department. We were not able to find a clear answer about whether or not the council is allowed to hold their public hearing anyway without a planning commission recommendation. And that information is provided in the packet too, if you want to go through the email correspondence with Ben Blessing at Clackamas County is probably the clearest explanation of, the reasons for that in the code sections we were looking at. And then the third reason is that today staff received a letter from the attorney of a potential dispensary applicant, bringing up several issues and in some parts echoing one of the concerns that was brought up by some of the planning commissioners, which is that the current language allows for too much subjectivity and might make the city vulnerable to lawsuits. So if the council agrees to continue this hearing to September 26th or later, then staff can gather whatever information you want us to look for in response to these concerns. However, on September 26th, we're already scheduled for you all to consider adopting the housing policy and code amendments. So we're expecting that to be a kind of long meeting already. So we're asking to go ahead and present the evaluation of this against the code criteria, which we must do in a public hearing for any development code amendment. So we're asking to get that out of the way. And then on September 26th, all that we would have to present would be any changes, the planning commission's formal recommendation, any public testimony received, anything new we would present at that time. So unless there's any objections, I'm just going to run through the code amendment criteria as usual. This is the same presentation that the planning commission heard, and then we can take questions. Peter might interrupt us in the middle and we need to go with his timeline. But if not, then at that point, the council would vote to continue to the 26th, I believe. Okay, so no objections, I'll move forward. Okay, so Ordinance 2022-007. This is a proposal amending several sections of Title 16 development of the Estacada Municipal Code pertaining to marijuana retail, also known as dispensaries. This code amendment, as you know, was drafted by staff at the request of the council. You've had several conversations now, resulting in your interest in changing the rules and process for allowing dispensaries in the city. The goal of the amendment is ultimately, as we understand it, allow one dispensary to open in the downtown zone, not within 100 feet of Broadway or Main, and it would be selected by the council through a competitive application process at the most basic. Currently, dispensaries are only allowed in the general commercial and highway commercial zones, but only if they get a conditional use permit, and only if they're located outside of the minimum separation distance buffers that we have in place currently. Those buffers right now prohibit dispensaries within 1,000 feet of parks, schools, churches, daycares, sports fields, and other, quote, places where children congregate regularly. Talk about subjectivity. This map shows where currently dispensaries are allowed, taking into consideration both the zoning and the existing 1,000-foot buffers. And still, even then, they would have to get a conditional use approval. So a very small kind of part of the city up in the highway commercial zone. The proposed changes are to remove dispensaries from the allowed uses in the C1 and HC zones, and then allow them outright in the downtown zone, subject to some specific language that you all worked on, but not within 100 feet of Broadway or Main. The amendments would also remove the 1,000-foot buffers and limit the number of dispensaries to either one or the same number of liquor stores permitted by the OLCC, whichever one is greater. The reason it's worded that way, for the record, is that in case for some reason the liquor store closed down or the OLCC rescinded their license in Estacada, the city could still have one dispensary. The council would also select the one dispensary by reviewing applications and using selection criteria to prioritize the greatest community benefit. So this is the language of the currently proposed code amendment for allowing them outright in the downtown zone. A cannabinoid retail business, provided that it's located more than 100 feet from Main Street and more than 100 feet from Broadway Street. The maximum number of cannabinoid businesses shall be one, or the number of OLCC licensed liquor stores in the city, whichever is greater. The cannabinoid retail business shall be selected after a competitive process if the mayor and city council determine and make findings that the benefits associated with the business exceed the potential harm that it could cause. Okay. So the approval criteria that the city must find to be met in order to amend these sections of code, we're going to go through them quickly here. Item 1, authorization to initiate amendments. They must be initiated by either the planning commission or city council. Yes, that's satisfied. This was initiated by council. The second is that the procedure, basically, the proposal needs to be first considered by the planning commission, whose recommendation would be referred with findings to the city council after holding at least one of its own public hearings. We attempted to follow that procedure, and for the reasons I've described, it's not clear whether we're technically allowed for the city council to issue a decision yet without the planning commission having adopted any findings or recommendation. The next is on findings. So written findings need to be made by the decision-making body, should be made also by the planning commission in addition to the city council, the decision-making body. So staff will ensure that whatever findings are adopted are indeed written and then signed. Carrying out that process right now. The next is limitation. This is not really applicable because the proposal is not being made by any specific property owner or developer, nor have these same amendments been considered. You've been working on them for a few years now, but considered meaning, having a public hearing and issuing a decision within the last year. So that criterion is not applicable or is met. We need to find that the amendments do not conflict with any other sections of the development code. I'm not going to go through all of the sections of those. I hope you'll trust that they don't. And that they are consistent and not conflicting with comprehensive plan goals. And so the staff report addresses all 12 of our comp plan goals, but this presentation only goes through the 2 that are applicable. Item 1 is applicable to all amendments. And so this is talking about public noticing, agency coordination, public hearing process. We are doing everything in our power to make sure that we are not breaking rules around that. And then goal number 7, economic development. This goal is, marijuana, like dispensaries are a very specific type of retail, which is only one specific type of employment use. So it's kind of a stretch even to apply this really high level goal to marijuana retail siting. But looking at the opportunities that might be created in terms of the local economy, both just in terms of that retail activity and also the potential tax revenue that the city can generate from the taxes. Okay, so that is all for approval criteria, and staff didn't find any to be unmet except for procedurally, like I said, not sure about needing the planning commission's recommendation before you're allowed to make your own decision. So this was for the planning commission, ignore that. We are not recommending that you vote for approval at this time. We are recommending that you continue the hearing to September 26th. After, I think we have time to take some questions. If you would like to do that, we can talk about the planning commission's conversation a little bit, or the procedural kind of logistics or whatever else.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions for Taylor on what she's discussed so far? I think, Joel, you have something?
A couple things. One is, I believe that you guys weren't able to find something that allowed us to do it, but I believe at the same time you weren't able to find something that didn't allow us to do it, correct?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that. And then would it just be the right time to address the letter, some things in the letter that came in, or?
Is it okay
Peter-
if he discusses the letter?
Or do you want to wait for
I
Peter?
think the letter would be best discussed with Peter. He's trying to log in right now, but he's having technical difficulties.
Okay, I'll hold my questions.
Okay,
Okay,
yes.
great.
that would be-
Katie?
This isn't a question about the letter from the attorney. This is actually the correspondence that you had with Ben Blessing, the senior planner at Clackamas County. I was a little bit disturbed by the language that he uses. What I think is clear, the PC Planning Commission did not recess properly, and they did not announce a proper date and time to resume hearing. It seems odd that the PC can hold up the process indefinitely, which is evidently what the effect of their request is doing. Whether that was their intention or not, I don't know. So I wonder if there are ORSs that can override the decision of a PC. I guess my question is, when the planning commission is having their meetings and they're going beyond essentially the powers that have been given to them, what are we as a city doing to sort of address that concern to make sure that moving forward, they don't abuse the limited power that they have? Because it seems like in this case, they're stalling a very controversial issue, obviously, and they're probably going to have their own feelings about it. And they've made those issues pretty clear in their improper delay of this process that we've been in the middle of for the last 2 years. And I guess I'm concerned about that happening again. I want to know what your perspective is on it.
Yeah, I would agree. I shared the concerns or the questions that Ben was having. That's what we were looking for. You know, we tried to find the answers before having to ask, you know, the county and the state, but yeah, there was really no clear answer in the ORSs in terms of, okay, well, if they're able to just table, what if they table and then they table again? You know, where's the limit to that? How long could they hold it up? And unfortunately, we couldn't find a clear answer to that. But I would agree that there should be something in place to prevent that from happening. And what we found in this situation is that our code just doesn't, maybe there's not enough specificity in our code to, or, you know, the code just doesn't account for this sort of kind of unexpected situation, I guess. Yeah, and I also, you know, I would take the blame for them not recessing properly in terms of setting a date for continuing the hearing. That's staff error. We didn't recognize that we needed to do that. You know, we try to memorize the code as best we can, but it's not possible. But yeah, I think to answer your question, I think that that's something that could be addressed with a code amendment to our public hearings process that is adopted into our code, and try to account for these unexpected situations where the planning commission isn't comfortable carrying out the duty that is actually assigned to them. So
If I can I have Peter on the phone. He's having trouble logging in, but can you hear us, Peter?
Yeah,
Oh, can you guys hear?
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear
All
you.
right, we're here. He's here. All right.
okay. I think at least one of you is aware that we received a letter from a lawyer threatening litigation over our proposed ordinance. You know, I feel pretty strongly about our legal position. By way of background, the cannabis regulations are modeled after the OLCC regulations for liquor that were put in after Prohibition. And those regulations are legally very prescriptive. So if you're going to, and I'll just use this example, if you're going to buy a bottle of Smirnoff in the state of Oregon, whether you're a hospital using it for detox tremens, whether you're a bar using it to sell to customers, or whether you're a consumer that's consuming it in your own home, you're going to pay the same price at every liquor store in the state. And there are a lot of other very prescriptive regulations that the OLCC imposed. Those rules and the fact that local taxes could not be imposed were challenged in court. It went all the way to the Oregon Supreme Court. Basically, the Oregon Supreme Court ruled that because of that uniformity in purpose, regardless of use, so no difference between a medical use, commercial use, or a recreational use, that an emergency existed that was necessary to uphold those sort of prescriptive regulations and saying that a city couldn't have its own regulations. That those factors are not present with cannabis. So the cost of whether it's a strain or an ounce or what have you varies from store to store. There's no price uniformity that's regulated by the state. There is the taxes between the medical and the recreational are completely different, and the rules are completely different. So you don't have any of the uniformity. The regulations say that you can have time, place, and manner restrictions on one hand, and then give examples of what those can be, and have some do not exceed language, which I think, I think that there are a variety of ways that we can get at the regulations in a legal manner, and that the intersection of home rule, constitutional home rule, land use, et cetera, we could, I feel pretty good about things, but one of my mottos is don't buy a lawsuit. So whether or not we could prevail if we're sued, sometimes the win is not having the fight. And so, you know, my advice to staff would be, if we're being threatened with a lawsuit over this, we know our current ordinance is in place and was fine. And so I don't know that it makes sense for us to move forward. The reason we were moving forward was to actually try to allow for it, at least one in the short term, maybe more than one in the long term, facilities in the downtown where it's not currently allowed. But if in doing that we're going to get sued, I don't know that that makes a lot of sense in my mind, because I don't know that we want to be the city that's litigating all of this.
Okay. Can you take a couple questions from the
Sure.
council? Okay.
Happy to.
Okay, let's start off with all the hands are up for all you.
Mine's for other stuff.
Okay, Bill.
Okay, so you did mention something there, Peter, that I had written a note on earlier, and that's about the alcohol comparisons for limitations upheld in court. But I just want to clarify something you just said. So you're saying it's better to leave our ordinances the way they are and then to change them and risk litigation, correct?
Well, so the people that crafted the statutes and regulations around cannabis use the liquor as a template. The people that did the psilocybin also use the exact same regulations as the template. But the facts that made the facts that the Oregon Supreme Court relied upon in order to say that those sort of prescriptive regulations worked just aren't present in either cannabis or the psilocybin. So I've always believed that they were, you know, I mean, they're the law on the books, but I think there's enough wiggle room that we can craft our own local regulations, which we can with virtually any other business. But again, this is kind of the intersection of our constitutional home rule powers, our land use, and kind of licensing, because the other way that we could regulate is through licensing. And I don't know that it would be a good use of the city's resources to litigate this.
So I just want a clarification. You're saying it's better to leave it there than to change it and risk litigation. I just want to clarify what you're saying there.
Yeah, there's no,
Okay.
I mean, our current regulations were not challenged. They're still in place until they're amended. This was to amend them, and it's not as if you as a council are forced to amend them. I mean, you can amend them if you want or not. So you have a lot of discretion, and you know, it's just a question of, do you want to make law in this area?
So according to this letter, literally the only part of our proposed ordinance changes that we have some legal gray area, if that's what you want to refer to it as. The only point in the code that has that legal gray area is the fact that we're limiting it to one marijuana retail business and selecting that through a competitive bidding process. That seems to be the only issue that this letter is taking into account. So why would we do away with changing all of the other ordinances that will allow this retail establishment to come into our city so that we can collect the taxes, so that we can provide the service to our citizens that they've been asking for, when we just need to change that one thing? Why would we throw all of the 2 years worth of work away and change absolutely nothing and leave it as is, which, by the way, is not working, because right now there are 4 tax lots in our city limits that are allowed to have marijuana retail on them, and they're all vacant lots. So no, our current ordinance isn't working. That's what we established last year. That's why we've been working on these ordinance changes for the last 18 months. So if all we have to do is change the limitation of one store, or, you know, based on the OLCC license liquor stores, why wouldn't we just change that one part of our code that seems to be the broken part? I guess that's my big question. Why can't we
All
just
the
remove
public
that one?
comments that we received, the concern was that they didn't want school children to see a proliferation of stores in the downtown. So these regulations, or what I believed I was tasked with initially, was to craft this in a way where there wouldn't be a proliferation of stores in the downtown area. And then once people saw it and became comfortable with it and understood its impact on the downtown, at that point, the city council could expand the number or locations, et cetera, if they so chose.
Intentions are one thing, but when we're looking at, oh, except for that way that we wanted to do it, could actually be against the law and could open us up for lawsuits. I really did love the verbiage that they used here. The intent to limit the number of marijuana retailers to one will create an appearance of impropriety or favoritism, if not outright corruption, particularly because the selection criteria is not set out in code, but rather is left for another day. It seems like we just need to change that one broken part of our code so we can move forward with this and we can actually bring the retail services that our citizens have been asking for the last, well, longer than 18 months, but we've been working on this as a council for 18 months. And I would really, really hate to see us go back to the drawing board simply because one part of our ordinance is broken.
Okay, Jerry.
I'm not as passionate about this, but I will say that I don't want to just leave it the way it is. We've worked too hard. We put too much effort. City staff's put a lot of effort into this. Peter's put a lot of effort into this. I think we just fix what needs to be fixed and we move forward. It doesn't seem like it's a big ask. It just seems like, reading the letter that, we need to relook at how many facilities we allow, how many retail facilities we allow in the city. And I think if we relook at that, reword it, we can move forward. We can move forward without litigation.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna go one more time and that go.
So I've only had just from reading it earlier to put any thought into this. My immediate thought is, first of all, it wouldn't be creating monopoly because we allow other services to deliver in here. So therefore we allow competitive in that regards. So that kills the definition of a monopoly. And I believe that we're very defensible in that position because there's multiple cities in the state that were mentioned by the OLCC and you mentioned, Peter, I think as well, that actually have single marijuana dispensaries and they're limited to that by their ordinances. So therefore we have other comparable cities to compare to, as well as the fact is we do allow people to deliver into the city. We have nothing blocking that. So the monopoly thing is, I think, a weak grounds. And as far as the criteria, we can post and put a basic minimal criteria with the addition of at the discretion of the council on there. And I do believe that we can remove that piece where it says benefits outweigh the harm. I mean, we can reword that, but the consensus of what the purpose of the council to choose that is to choose the business that we think is going to benefit the community the best. And that's the purpose that we're here, is to make the best choices on behalf of the city. I believe we even kind of, it's part of our swearing in is to kind of uphold the Constitution, but also to represent the people and represent the people making the best choices. So I believe we can reward that portion on there to make it more defined, and we can put some basic minimal criteria that the council will review, but it still has to be at the discretion of the council on a conditional use. Just like it would be on any other committee and any other conditional uses out there. So I think we need that takes away the fuzziness, but leaves the ability for the council to make the final decision, but doesn't lock them in like any other conditional use doesn't.
Well,
I'm also in the camp about maybe temporarily keeping the current conditions in place that we have now, but working on these to address the issues here. What Councilor Litke brought up, this issue was one of the main ones that the Planning Commission had concerns with as well too. They felt like it was too subjective, and they also felt like it there's no other, to them, precedent in the city that we do this for any other business. Why would we be doing this for this particular type of business as well too? So I'd like to work on it and see what we can figure out to clean it up.
Okay. Katie.
So literally for any kind of business, whether it be a housing subdivision, or it be a grocery store, or it be a restaurant, or it be, you name it. In our municipal code, we say, if you want to open one, this is what we will allow. We will allow you to set up shop in one of these zones. We will, we ask that you provide a bathroom in many cases. We ask that you have so many parking stalls in so many cases. And we actually have code and regulation that we set out saying, if you want to open a business, you have to meet criterias X, Y, and Z. And as long as that business meets criterias X, Y, and Z, they can go to the city and say, I've met your criteria. Will you please issue me a business license? And unless they don't meet that criteria, they'll get that business license. And I guess when we talk about setting time, place, and manner regulations for a cannabis industry, there's nothing that says we can't set those regulations, those time, place, and manner regulations, and say, hey, if you want to open a cannabis dispensary, we don't want the storefront to be adjacent to Main and Broadway, or to be within 100 feet of Main or Broadway Street. We don't want you to have neon signs. We don't want you to use the word marijuana on the outside of the building. Use something other than that word. There's a slew of criteria that we can establish as a city that'll make people feel better about having those businesses go into those areas. And as long as we set those criteria, then if someone meets that criteria, who are we to say no? And, oh, I'm so sorry, so-and-so beat you to it, and we're only allowed to have one or allowed to have two. I'm not saying we shouldn't set actual time, place, and manner restrictions, but we should do so in an effective way that will actually allow for an entrepreneur to come in and develop this enterprise within our city. Right now, our code is written in a way that does not even allow this enterprise into our city. And that's what the problem has been that we've been trying to fix.
I'm going to take us out of this, the question part of this. Okay, back over to you, Taylor, on this, because we're going to bring it back. We have to go through the planning commission now as it stands.
That would be our recommendation. Peter just said he has to go. There is, I think we should let him do some research for us. He said Dundee only has one dispensary. And he told me earlier today that Beaverton had limited the numbers based on their population, like how many dispensaries there can be. So I think that the point of what you guys have been working on for the past year and a half is to try to get to yes. And we had found a way to do that would allow it to happen, but would make, because we had people that were like, yes, go forward, no more restrictions than the state. And other people were like, no, I don't want that in my community. And it was hard to get to a middle point. And I felt like you guys did a really great job of doing that. And now this has caused a hiccup in that. And so it needs to be addressed. And I think by waiting till the planning commission meeting on September 15th, which they did agree to meet on that night to discuss this, that would allow Peter to give us some more input. Because I feel like I don't have enough input to tell you, what I would recommend. But that would be, I guess, up to you. I'll let Taylor finish and you guys can decide
Okay.
how you want to carry it out.
All right, Taylor, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't have too much more to say. I will just offer that an option could be to draft up, I mean, maybe it's already draft, but establish the selection criteria at the same time that we adopt the code. The selection criteria could be, included as an exhibit to the ordinance, or as part of the ordinance. It could just be adopted right directly into that code section. So that, the attorney here, somewhere in here, notes that if we're saying in the code that, we are allowing one dispensary that gets selected according to selection criteria that the council will establish, well, that's not showing anyone with the adoption of these amendments what those criteria are, unless they're adopted with the code amendments. So one option could be we come back to the planning commission on September 15th with some proposed selection criteria language, which we would have to coordinate on. I don't think I've seen those yet, but and then bring those back to the council to tweak if, as needed, potentially for adoption on September 26th.
Okay.
Either way, yeah, the request and recommendation at this point is to continue the hearing to September 26th.
All right, so that's what are we gonna make a motion on that when we come out of this? Is that the idea?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Sorry.
Really quick before we
is
close
there
out this
public
public
comment?
hearing.
Well,
Sorry,
if
for
we're
next-
continuing the
make
hearing,
it
then
quick.
couldn't we just hear the
Um,
public testimony at the continued date? And then,
Katie's got something else she wants to add, so let's get this.
I just want to add this to the public hearing while we're at it. I'm looking at the Dundee Municipal Code right now, and there is nothing limiting the number of retail marijuana stores. If they happen to if they coincidentally only have one in their city, that's just a coincidence. It's not in their municipal code. I'm looking at it right now. So.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, if you want to continue this public hearing, you would make a motion that's in that staff report to continue the public hearing to Monday, September 26th, and that way the public would know that you'll be discussing it again.
Okay, that's what we will do. So I will finish this and read the statement from Luba's, right?
No, I think we're just gonna continue it and we'll pick it back up.
And then you'll read the end at the end.
Okay, so what am I reading right now? There's nothing, we just continue it. Okay, so you've heard that. We need a motion to continue the hearing.
Or make a motion, Mayor. Is the 26th going to give us enough time for staff to look into this, for Peter to review it and for us to come back with all the questions, or should we look further out?
I think it's sufficient time. It's September
September.
26th,
Yeah.
not August 26th.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that the planning commission's looking at on the 15th, if they make recommendations, that's only 2 weeks after that. Should we give them more time for
No.
any changes that might come up out of there?
I think it'll be
All right,
sufficient.
I'm just saying because we're seeing it publicly now. I just want to ask a question before we make the motion.
No.
For staff, I
Keep it
believe
time.
that would be sufficient as long as you're comfortable.
Okay, so I need a motion.
So what's the motion for to continue till the 26th?
Till Monday, September 26th, 2022.
I move to continue the public meeting of
To Monday.
till Mondays, September 26th, 2022.
Okay.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. You should abstain. Okay. All right, so now I have one comment. Would she make that right now before I go out of the public hearing or? Okay. All right, great. Okay.
Could I, sorry if this is inappropriate, can I ask for them, can we gather like any specific questions that they want us to research, or do you want to do that one-on-one after this meeting? Like information that they're gonna want us to gather for
That the city
the
council would
hearings.
want us to.
Right, yeah.
I would say if you have specific information, I think it's gonna be pretty standard what we can do, what we can't do, what you are allowed to set restrictions on. And so if you have something specific that you think isn't gonna be covered by that when Peter investigates it, then give us a call or shoot us an email.
Okay. All right. So now I will open the city council. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can technically open the city council.
Okay.
And then we'll
I
do
kinda
the-
Open the city council. And we've got another public hearing here. And it's a property, no, not that one. Hold on. I've got two of the same here.
It is the annexation. So it's 5A annexation.
Clarify for Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On this. We're going to continue it on to the next meeting that we have because we're actually going to be talking about this very thing in the next meeting that we have to put it off to because of the planning commissions.
Would that be in the public hearing or would that be at the community?
I think that could be in the
citizen
regular
group
citizen group comment.
comments? At
It's
the
not part
end?
of the public
Because we're not to that point of the public hearing yet.
Okay,
So you could do that at the second citizen and community group comments. And then if you want to read it in the public hearing next time, when we get to the public comment part of it, then you can also do that, but you could share it at the end of this meeting.
yeah, right here on the second citizen group
After
comments at the bottom
community,
there.
after council business.
Put you-
I'd also just add, Kim attended the planning commission hearing for this proposal, and that recording is now on YouTube. And so she did share a lot of interesting information that I did not know. So
Sure.
if you want to check that out.
All right. Okay. Now. So which one of these am I reading?
You're opening the land use hearing,
Land use.
the.
It's a land use. It's got
Yep.
Luba there.
Yep.
the whole-
That's
Okay.
it.
I will now close the city council and open the public hearing on annexation 2022-04, annex tax lots 34E, 170C, 1500 and 1600. So do any members of the council wish to abstain or declare ex parte contact? No. Okay, the council will now hear the staff report on these proposals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, so this is application number 2022-04 annex. Project name is 31540 Southeast Strubar Lane. The planning commission has forwarded their recommendation from their July 28th hearing. Sorry, I didn't change the date here. And so the council's decision tonight will be final unless appealed to LUBA. And then the council will put the annexation into effect by adopting a resolution to annex the property into city limits only after all conditions of approval have been met. So let's look at the applicant and the property information. Applicants are Kelly and Jeremy Hickman. And the properties that we're looking at, there are two lots number 1500 and 1600 of tax map 34E 17 DC. One of those lots, the ones that's closest to Southeast Eagle Creek Road, is unaddressed. And then the one that's west of that, that's off of Strubar Lane, is 31540 Southeast Strubar Lane. The comprehensive plan map here shows that the property is indeed entirely within our urban growth boundary. This satisfies the first requirement for annexation, which you should be able to see at the bottom of the screen. That's annoying. The vicinity map. Why is my, sorry.
Did it get made larger?
I don't think so, but maybe. No. All right, it's okay. The vicinity map shows incorporated areas shaded tan and unincorporated areas shaded white. So this shows that the property is indeed adjacent to existing city limits on its northern boundary. That satisfies the second requirement for annexation, which is that it must be adjacent to city limits. Section 16.124.030 lists the approval criteria that need to be met in order for the council to approve an annexation. We're going to go through these one by one on the next slides. The first is compliance with the comprehensive plan. Since they are not proposing any zoning other than what the comprehensive plan map designates, then this consistency is automatically found to be met. The comp plan designates this property for central mixed use, and so upon annexation, they will just automatically be zoned that zoning. The second is availability of city services, including sewer, water, and streets. The applicant submitted a capacity statement from the city engineer dated January 20th of this year, which is around when they had their pre-app meeting, I believe. That documented that the city can indeed serve this property if it develops according to the uses and densities allowed in the proposed central mixed use zone. And just as a reminder, the timeline on that ability to serve statement is that the city needs to be able to serve those uses if it were to develop with those uses now or within 3 years. But we could serve it now too. And I'll also note here, conversations that I've had offline on the phone with our city engineer, talking about, our progress towards the development of the new wastewater treatment plant and, the fast growth that the city's experiencing, and trying to, look at how this capacity analysis and these statements are going to line up with the construction of the new wastewater facility treatment, and how that's going to dovetail with all the growth that's happening and coming online. He is paying close attention to that. He is, you'll notice in his statements that he provides to annexation applicants that he notes that we are approaching capacity in our current system. The reason that he's able to confirm that the city could serve the development on these properties is that we are on track to build the new wastewater treatment facility. There's no indication that we're not on track, so he's still able to issue these statements with confidence. But in our conversations, he is letting us know that if for some reason we are not moving along in that process as quickly as we expected, or if we are experiencing an influx in growth that's faster than his estimations would provide for, that he will stop issuing these statements, or he'll issue statements that are just the facts of the matter, but not confirming that the city can serve those properties. All that to say, we've had pre-application meetings with 2 other annexation applicants. We've met with the city engineer for those pre-apps. We got confirmation from him that the city does and will have capacity unless, we reach moratorium state, which we're not at now. But after that, we have started letting potential applicants know when people, ask us, hey, I'm interested in annexing, like, what's the likelihood of approval? We've started letting people know we can't guarantee approval because there are variables related to the construction of that wastewater treatment plant. The city engineer is going to start being a little more stringent and conservative in those statements that he's providing. Basically, not willing to issue statements of, with quite as much confidence, basically. So we're letting people know they probably shouldn't apply for annexation at this time. Wait till we're a little farther on our wastewater treatment plant development, just for your information. That is not the case for this annexation, but I just wanted to give you all that kind of context. He's paying, Kurt, the city engineer, is paying very close attention to that, and he's going to err on the side of caution, less confidence in the capacity, even though the numbers are there to support the annexations. So just a little extra information there. Hopefully that kind of quells some concerns about that rapid growth that we're seeing. And then, okay, so looking at city services, streets are the other city systems that we need to evaluate here. The complication here is that on tax lot 1600, which is the property with the single family home, you can see that property doesn't have any frontage on a public or private street because Southeast Strupar Lane is just an easement over private property. So you can kind of see how this is actually not a street. It's the flagpole portion of a private property that comes out over here. So that complicates things because usually properties should have fronted, properties that are coming into the city, especially properties that are developing, should have frontage on a street, and they would develop the frontage with frontage improvements like sidewalks and, curbs and half street pavement. So future development of these properties is going to require either the conversion and improvement of Strubar Lane, which these property owners don't have control over, or the dedication of right-of-way along Strubar Lane. And so we don't really know what that's going to look like. We don't know if there's an opportunity for this property owner to cooperate with these property owners. So what we're going to propose, what is currently proposed is that they, the applicants sign a waiver of remonstrance that basically says, upon the time of future development, which they don't have plans for quite yet, but at the time that they would want to develop, we would require them to, they could either pay, they could agree to like, what's it called, deferred or delayed site improvement. Basically, they're committing to pay, to contribute their portion to the improvement of street frontage whenever it becomes possible to improve the streets that would serve those properties. So that's the waiver of remonstrance against dedication of right-of-way or required improvements in the future. And then the last, that's that. And then the last approval criteria requires findings regarding the availability of police, fire protection services, parks, and school facilities. I've talked in the past about how some of these code criteria might not be strictly legal for the city to require for annexations. Nonetheless, the city, this application appears to meet all of these anyway. The city contracts with Clackamas County Sheriff's Office for police services. The properties are already within Estacada School District and Estacada Rural Fire District. Both of those received notice of the application. They didn't submit any concerns. 2 public parks are within a half mile of the property. That's the planned Campanella Park, and then also Wade Creek Park, about a half mile away each. And then, oh, that's it. Okay, so those findings satisfy that criterion. And so the approval criteria that, or the conditions of approval that we're looking at are, we've got our kind of boilerplate things that we need on all annexations. It specifies exactly which properties we're talking about. That's number 1. Jumping down to number 3, this is kind of an administrative, these last 2 are kind of administrative. When the council adopts the resolution, putting the annexation into effect, we're going to zone the property according to its comp plan map designation. Number 4 is that staff is going to go ahead and update the city's zoning map. So that the 2 that you might want to discuss potentially are that the applicant needs to sign the waiver of remonstrance against the dedication of right-of-way and or other road and sidewalk improvements that are consistent with city standards. So that would be driven by looking at what does our code require for whatever type of development they're proposing. And then the other one is provide any revisions to the illustration and legal description that they submitted for the Department of Revenue to complete the taxing district boundary change. So recently we had a public hearing about that code amendment. We just want to make sure that once we annex this property, we're able to tax it appropriately if we're going to, especially if we're serving it with city services. So that is all that I had. I'll take questions and then I think we might hear from the applicants if they're here.
Okay, great. Are there any questions for Taylor? Let's move on to that part as I move down. I got to read the rest of this. So is there any correspondence for the application? You said there was. They're going to be here, right? Okay. So I will now read a statement about evidence presented at the hearing. An issue which may be the basis for an appeal to LUBA must be raised prior to the close of record at the final eventuary hearing on the specific application. Such issue shall be raised with sufficient specificity so as to afford LUBA and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue. Failure of an issue to be raised at the hearing or in person or by letter, or failure to provide sufficient specificity to afford LUBA and the parties an adequate opportunity to respond to the issue precludes an appeal to LUBA on that issue. Okay, so we'll hear from the applicant now.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Kelly Hickman. I am the owner of 31540 Strubar Lane. I don't really have any other comments. We were in person at the planning committee meeting a week or so ago. And I guess I just wanted to maybe set your mind at ease. We have no plans at this point. We're definitely not putting any kind of a subdivision there at either one of those properties. We have a few ideas, but again, our main concern right now is just to get it annexed into the city and away from the county. The city has more options for us as far as what we want to do to something, with that property at some point. So this is all we're asking to do at this point, is just to annex it into the city.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Do we have any questions from council, the applicant, or for Taylor at this point? No, it's pretty self-evident. Hmm?
Are we making a choice here then in terms of the whether they sign that waiver of remonstrance? Or are we making a choice on that, or?
So the council you have the option to change any of the conditions of approval that are recommended. So that's something you could, would you have to make a motion to approve with changes to the conditions and then get a second and then discuss? But yeah, you could change any of those conditions.
Those are recommended.
Those are
no.
just recommended, yeah,
By the planning commission?
by the planning commission. They were not changed by the planning commission from staff's
So
recommendation.
their
So
staff,
we
yeah,
crafted
staff's
this, yeah.
recommendation and planning commission approve them
Okay.
without changing them. Right.
All the questions I'm seeing, anybody else got any? Katie?
So I'm looking at page 4. So planning commission findings warrant a condition of approval requiring the dedication of 7 feet of right of way along the subject property's border with Southeast Strubar Lane. Okay, so you want to have a right of way or an easement in addition to the private easement that exists currently. Is that in order to provide for the future construction of Southeast Strubar Lane as a local street with a minimum right of way width of 40 feet, and in order to provide city sewer and water services to the subject and adjacent properties? Is that?
So I don't think that, and I apologize, this is an early. This should have been revised when the condition was revised, because this is, if the condition were worded this way, it'd be very specific and prescriptive, and not allow for the city to apply whatever code and standards apply to the type of development that they might be proposing in the future. And so this was an early version of that condition. And I apologize that it did not get updated when the condition of approval itself got updated. So
What should
so I
say?
would, so I'm saying I agree with you that it doesn't make sense for the condition, for the requirement to be as specific as this paragraph on page 4 at the end is.
Well, no, I actually appreciate being more specific. I guess I'm confused because I didn't see that as like a recommended or a recommendation to of a condition that we should include in whether or not we're going to approve this annex, because honestly, the fact that Strubar Lane is a private easement or a private driveway essentially really does make making a bigger deal in my head, I think, than maybe it's supposed to be. But at the same time, I'm thinking about future development. Do we want it to really go onto the highway or off of the highway right there where the property is located? If we were to eventually put in a parking lot for an apartment complex. I'm just throwing that out there as a potential of what we could be looking at right there in that space. And the idea that Strubar is a private lane and this, it looks like the first sort of recommendation for approval included some verbiage to alleviate that problem. I kind of appreciated, but now you're saying that that's not in there and I'm confused as to why it's not.
Yeah. So the council could, I just don't know about the logistics of requiring
Right, so what did you change it? You changed it to that remonstrance.
Right, because the waiver of remonstrance allows the city to require whatever dedication or improvements are consistent with its
With the-
adopted codes and plans. So if in the future, for example, if we updated our TSP to change the, width of certain classification of streets, well, then that waiver of remonstrance would end up requiring that new width that we decided was more appropriate for whatever reason, rather than being stuck to a width that was required by a specific condition of approval.
But would that waiver of remonstrance include any right of ways for the city?
It could,
It could.
yes, it could either,
Whatever
it could
is-
either
whatever's
include
needed.
right of way or just improvements, like it could either be right of way dedication, or it could be construction of or contributing to the cost of constructing sidewalks and curbs, other street improvements in existing right of way. So if, for example, if the property owner of that Strubar flag lot decided to dedicate their flagpole as right of way, this property owner maybe wouldn't have to, or let's say they didn't dedicate it as right of way, but they wanted to, because it's not wide enough to be public right of way, but it is wide enough to be a private street. If they wanted to make a private street, then the city and this property owner wanted to develop, and somehow that happened at the same time. The city could require this property owner, the waiver of remonstrance would allow the city to require this property owner to contribute to the construction of that private street to city standards. That's just one potential exception to.
So the waiver of remonstrance gives more leeway to, because we don't know what they're gonna do in the future.
Right,
And it means they have to meet. So rather than spelling out what we think they might need to do, they sign that and then we work with them on it at a future date.
right.
And is that common?
Yeah, yeah. But I would add, well. I was gonna offer to, if the council wants to like update the findings to remove these specific numbers to, match the current condition of approval, we could do that, but you could also leave it in there. And then in the future, when we're looking at that condition of approval, this would serve as kind of context for what we were thinking about. Just making sure that it either gets improved as a public or private street, and that the applicant is contributing to that improvement cost in a proportional amount.
Any more questions on that? No? All right. I will have there's no speaker request form, so I'll move over that. Does the staff have anything else they'd like to add before we come out of this?
I don't.
Okay, great. At this time, I want to close the public hearing and open back up to city council. And here we sit. How do you want that motion to read at this point?
If there are proposed changes to the conditions of approval, then it would be, I move to approve annexation 2022 dash oh. Are we 04 dash annex with changes to the conditions?
And if there's no
Or with the
changes-
following changes to the conditions? Is that
We don't
enough
have
for
any.
them?
You're right. It's the same monster.
It sounds like there's
No.
interest.
Motion.
Then I'm,
Jerry, we're good. Jerry, go ahead.
I move to approve ordinance 2022-04 annex with conditions recommended by staff.
Second.
You got a first and second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
Okay. We're out of the public hearing stage, thank goodness.
Ooh, yeah.
Council business. Okay, first on council business, we have resolution 2022-018, a resolution approving an alternate surplus property process. There you go.
All right, this will allow the city council to establish an alternate process for the sale of surplus property as was discussed with the city attorney at the July 11th meeting. And you just held the public hearing. There was no comment. And so this resolution is ready to move that forward.
Okay, so you need a motion on this particular one. Do I have a motion in the room?
I move to approve resolution 2022-018, a resolution approving an alternate surplus property process.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Yeah, first and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We are at the Arts Commission appointment. It looked good. Is everybody comfortable with that?
There's two applicants, and so.
Oh, is there?
Yep.
Oh, I saw the one. Maybe I missed something.
In the discussion on page 102 of the packet, the Arts Commissions made their statement of their recommendation. They did interview both of the candidates. Both were excellent candidates in the opinion of the Arts Commission. And they recommend appointing, do you want me to read that? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, appointing Michael Anderly to the position. And this is quoting from the Arts Commission. Because he brings extensive direct music experience and connections. Emily Moon organized so much of the music at Summer Celebration and other events for so many years, and we will really be feeling the loss of all that knowledge, just as everyone is starting to feel more comfortable gathering. It's a tall order to fill her shoes, but we feel that Mike's passion for music and his ideas for incorporating it into our events will be a major asset to work our way back up to larger events. So that was
Okay.
their recommendation, but it's up to the council to appoint either.
I'm comfortable with their recommendation. I think they know what they need and where their spots need to be filled. So how does everybody else feel
I'm
about that?
comfortable with that. Yeah.
Okay, so can I get a motion stating that very thing?
I move to approve, or I move to appoint Michael Anderly to the Arts Commission.
Okay,
Second.
got a first and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we are now at the second consideration for ordinance 2022-012. An ordinance amending certain chapters in Title 10 Vehicles Traffic of the Estacada Municipal Code. We've all looked at this before, so all I need is a motion on the floor.
I move to approve ordinance 2022-012.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, first and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All those opposed? None. All right, we are at the next one here. Second consideration for ordinance 2022-001, an ordinance declaring a temporary ban on psilocybin service centers and the manufacture of psilocybin products. Did I skip one?
Skip D.
Okay, wait.
Oh, yeah.
It's a
I'll
long
catch up
list
here.
tonight, long list tonight.
Yeah, long list. Okay, second consideration for ordinance 2022-008, an ordinance granting a non-exclusive cable service franchise to Comcast of Oregon 2 Inc.
I have to recuse myself due to conflict of interest.
That's right. Okay, good man. All right, so do I have a motion on the floor?
I move to approve ordinance 2022-008.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, first and second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. And now I'm at the psilocybin products, 2022-001, or 011, excuse me. So do I have a motion on this one as well?
I move to approve ordinance 2022-011.
Second.
Yeah, first and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, resolution 2022-020, a resolution of the Estacada City Council approving a change in rates for the solid waste recycling and other materials as allowed by ordinance 2018-004 and 2018-005. So I'll let you speak to this, Melanie, kind of give them an idea what we're talking about here.
Okay, sure. So this is just, staff has been following the county's rate study to determine an appropriate rate increase request for garbage and recycle services in the city. This resolution proposes a 2% rate increase, which is right about where the county was increasing their rates this year. We have Josh Brown online in case he wants to make any statement to the council, or if you have any questions. He works for Arrow. He's our representative from Arrow Sanitary. But we worked on this together to a certain degree. I haven't worked so much with Walker as they didn't necessarily make a request. But last year, if you remember, we made an 8% increase because we had not increased it incrementally the 2 years prior. And that's kind of the give and take. Do you like that? You know, waiting a couple years and then having a larger increase, or just I feel more comfortable bringing it along as we're going.
Yeah.
Because you never know what's going to happen next year. It could stay flat, or it could take a big jump. And if we're not caught up.
And to give them an idea, you gave me an
Yeah.
idea earlier what that consists of, 2%. I mean, like if they have a
Yeah.
a barrel, it's, what is that?
The average, the container that most people use is a 32 or 35 gallon cart. And it would raise it 69 cents a month is what so it's pretty minimal, but it
keeps
prevents it. It keeps us going, and it keeps our garbage providers profitable hopefully at the right levels. But Josh, did you want to share anything, or are you just here to answer questions?
Yeah, no, I can speak to that. I appreciate that, Melody. I think you explained it well. The increase is quite minimal this year, much like you said. Clackamas County was right in that same range. So I think given as high as inflation is right now and some of the challenges that we're all going through, I think that's a pretty minimal rate increase to the customer base. So but I am here to answer any questions if the council or anybody has any. So
Hey, thank you, Josh. Any questions for Josh?
Not necessarily, just, I went back and forth on this a little bit. I understand the incremental increases, that makes sense. My only thing is I'm back and forth on the fact is that we're in a recession right now, and people are struggling because of the high interest. Increases and the inflation increases, inflation increases. So as we add taxes and fees, it just concerns me that we're adding on to that. I mean, 69 cents isn't a lot, but is that tacking on to something else? And people on fixed incomes, where are they at? So I'm just been back and forth on it. I just wanted to see if anyone else on the council had any input on that, because I'm really kind of split in the middle. I see the benefits of both sides.
I'd rather tell the people living on fixed income that we're raising their trash rate 69 cents this month or this year, versus in a couple of years going and saying, I'm sorry, we actually have to raise it. What was it? $10 was the last increase.
8%.
I'd rather say we have to increase it 69 cents than, sorry, we didn't increase you those 69 cents. Now we're going to have to increase you $10. When you talk about what kind of news to deliver someone, 69 cents is a little easier to swallow than catching up later.
Understand.
And I think we've been through this before, because didn't we just raise sewer rates and stuff?
Yeah.
We had to jump it to catch up.
Yeah.
I mean, the example is already set, so we don't want to be there, I don't think.
None of us want to see
And
it.
also, I think it helps our haulers also, because they're not running out of sync, they're able to collect a little bit more each year to stay in that. The county keeps, I think it's between 8 and 12% profitability that they let it. And so it allows them to collect that versus staying flat. And then, okay, we get a big jump, but they didn't have that revenue for those other prior years also. So that's
Yeah,
it.
I
But
think-
yeah,
I think-
this is my recommendation. I feel comfortable recommending
Yeah,
it.
I think it fits comfortable as well. I think the minimal amount that we're talking about here, I would rather say that than have to come at them later on to catch up, even if we were out of a recession.
It makes sense, Mayor. I just want to make sure we're considering that, because
That's good. It's good. to keep that in mind.
I've heard him speak before on fixed incomes, and so it makes me want to consider every raise or extra fee we put out there.
Yeah.
So, I had a question that came up and then it went away. Never mind. I can't remember what it was.
All right, so in that, can I get a motion on the floor?
I move to approve resolution 2022-020.
Do I have a second?
second.
First and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Josh.
Now we are
Thank
at
you.
thank you, Josh. We are at the city council interviews and appointment. So let's take
Do you
a
need to take a
split
break?
second. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah.
All right, we'll open back up the city council. Now it is time for the city council interviews. So I'm going to have 3 questions here. I'll give you about a minute per question. I'll run through the gamut for each individual counselor, so you all get a chance to answer the same question. And then I'll move on to the next question and do the same thing, if that's okay.
And I think you'll need to go to the microphone or people online.
Yeah, if
won't
you
be
step up
able-
to the microphone, or
you
even
could-
if you kind of, the ones that are in the room, kind of just huddle up there for a
Huddle.
minute, 'cause we're gonna try to
Take
move through
turns.
this pretty quick.
Right. Yeah, so if we have Rhonda. Yeah, there's a four, yeah, three of you here, Kurt and John.
And I don't see,
Teresa Davis isn't here, is that right?
Michael McElroy.
I got Michael on
Okay.
there. I don't see a Teresa. Unless she's the Zoom user.
Okay,
But Teresa, if you're on in the audience, can you please raise your hand? I think she's here.
all right.
Okay.
Right. Okay, that being said, we will move on here. I will start on my list. Now, it's not in a perfect line up here because I did it off the sheets in the back here. So, Michael, you'll be the first one. And I'm going to ask you a question. You have provided some of your background in your application. What do you feel are the strengths that you can bring to the council?
And we're gonna try to keep these answers to about
1
1 minute and a half, bro. Just off the top of your head.
Did you get that?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Got it. Well, I work with the counties and cities frequently in my employment, and I'm very good at navigating some of the languages and ORS codes and things like that. And so I think I have a lot to contribute in that way. Looking forward to just doing whatever I can to help the city and making good decisions of things that are going to be helpful for my family. My kids are in the town and would love to participate in that capacity.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer. Okay, moving on. Kurt Schwager, step up to the microphone, please. I'll read the question again.
Okay.
You have provided some of your background on your application. What do you feel are the strengths that you bring to the council?
So the majority of my adult life has been in corrections or law enforcement, whether it's inside the walls, outside on the streets, or in corporate investigations. And I'm sure that everybody knows that it's the gamut. And I've also lived all over the United States. I've moved over 50 sometimes due to work. So I think that along the code lines, those are the easy things for people to look at. It's that interpersonal relationship that you have with someone one-on-one when it's potentially the worst day of their life. And being able to sit and talk with them and calm them down. I think that I could be a good voice for the city. I love this town. This town's adopted me, so I just want to help the city.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Rhonda Craig, step up to the microphone, please. I will read the question again. You have provided some of your background on your application. What do you feel are the strengths that you bring to the council?
I basically too have worked for a position that required me to work with the city and the county. But me, I just love Estacada. I haven't been here but 15 years. Well, actually, I think it's been longer. I think it's been 18 years. And I love this city. I would do anything to make it better. I have a photography business that I literally help people when they want photos. I do a lot of fundraisers and I just love to do things for people. And I'm good at talking as well. I can talk somebody down from a roof. So I've always been that person. So, and I like to joke too. So that just makes it even better.
All right, thank you. All right, John. Step up to the microphone. And I will read the same question to you again. You have provided some of your background in your application. What do you feel are the strengths that you can bring to the council?
So as a actuary, I'm kind of into analytics. And one of the things that I believe that I could bring is to make sure that the numbers also match up and see issues like we saw tonight. And then on the flip side, outside, I'm a very good listener. I really like to be there and listen to the people. It's really not what I want. It's not what my strengths and beliefs completely are, but it's what I hear from the people and what I can bring to the council and discuss it in a patient manner.
Very good. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go a little out of order this time, so I will start with Rhonda. And I will start the second question set. So go ahead and step up to the microphone. What do you see as the three most important issues facing the city of Estacada in the next 2 years?
You said three? Not just joking. I believe the building, the building of the houses, I mean, the house is going up fast right now. The sewer problem. That was another one, and I guess now that I heard about the cannabis thing, that seems to be another issue right now.
Okay.
Whether there's gonna be any of them going up, so.
All right.
I hear that too, so.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Kurt, step up to the microphone, please. I will read the same question. What do you see as the three most important issues facing the city of Estacada in the next 2 years?
The safety of the citizens in town, their feeling of security. We've had tons of people that have lived here their entire lives, and now they feel like they're being potentially taxed out of Estacada. In making Estacada again.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, John, step up to the microphone, please. I will read the same question again to you, sir. What do you see as the three most important issues facing the city of Estacada in the next 2 years?
So I kind of tend to agree with the first comment in regard to the sewage and the plant and what will happen there and the placement of that in the building. Of course, that'll take time. I think the growth, and what I think about the growth is, yes, these single houses, which I actually live in, are great, but I see a problem with lower income brackets for housing. I don't see much of that as a development plan, and it seems like it might be important for us to address that, as we discussed earlier today in the workshop. And then finally, I do see a continual safety issue, of course, the concerns there in regard to not only safety of the citizens themselves, but especially safety for children as they enter in parks and environments, to make sure that they feel safe, because I've seen concerns about that now. Probably in the future, as we continue to grow, there will be that problem.
Okay, thank you. Michael, you know the same question. I will read it again for you. What do you see as the three most important issues facing the city of Estacada in the next 2 years?
Managing growth in the right ways with all the new zoning that has happened and the development that's going to be going up. I've noticed with my kids at the middle school locally that they're seeing record numbers of participation in sports and growth in enrollment, and making sure that the schools are able to accommodate the growth as it happens and not growing too fast and putting too much burden on the school systems, and looking at places where the schools are going to be able to develop and grow new buildings to accommodate all the new students that are going to be coming in, with the development that's going to be coming through the current property and tying in up at Cascadia Ridge. I could see that creating some problems up there, where we're going to be needing to look for new places for school locations to deal with that growth, and things to keep those kids busy as they come in, improving parks like they're doing at Campanella, and looking for other opportunities to keep the kids busy and out of trouble.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are on the third question. I'm going to mix it up again. So we're going to start with you, John, and I will read the question to you. Looking ahead in the next 5 to 10 years, what must the city of Estacada do to retain a high quality of life, livability, and community?
I think one of the most important things that we need to do is continue to develop our parks. Personally, I feel like there aren't a lot. And I feel like as we continue to grow, we need to make sure that we have a good plan in regard to the parking system. And then also a development of making sure that that the streets are suitable for those who have diverse needs. that the sidewalks and so forth, as new developments come through here, that those that are handicapped or those that have additional needs, that everything's met there in regard to that. That's kind of one of the things that I think of when I think of the next 5 years, I suppose, as well as the sewage system.
Okay, thank you. Rhonda, step up to the mic, please. I will read you the same question again. Looking ahead in the next 5 to 10 years, what must the city of Estacada do to retain the high quality of life and livability in our community?
I do think the sewer thing is a big deal. That's something that we do need to pay attention to as well. And I know my kids were in the school systems, and I think sometimes when their education isn't where it needs to be, I mean, my daughter had a lot of problems. Both of my kids had a lot of problems with the high school and the junior high. I think that would be something to look forward to in the next 5 years. Maybe just, not necessarily change it. I mean, because our schools are okay. We've got a really good principal. I think it's just maybe tweaking it a little bit, making it more friendly for the kids that are having trouble.
Okay, thank you. All right, Kurt, step up to the microphone, please.
You don't have to read it, I know it.
You got it? All right,
Yeah.
go. Go
Having a
ahead.
dedicated law enforcement. Dedicated, this is an Estacada cop that lives in Estacada that can get out of his car and walk in and press flesh with every business and go up, see it, somebody walking down the street. Oh, hey man, how are you doing? That's gonna make them feel secure. And the reason that I say that is because I've been there and done that. I've been that cop in a small town. A lot of people are saying, man, if something happens, it's gonna take 15 minutes for him to come here. Why? We've got the tax revenue now with everybody that's coming in. We need a law enforcement officer in this town 24/7. And that's what I'm hearing. We need not a contracted cop. We need a cop that parks his car out here every day.
Thank you. Michael, I will read the question to you. Oh, you got it?
I got it.
Okay.
I think being smart in our planning with traffic flow as we have the growth in the city, making sure that we're thinking several years ahead and not just planning for what's happening next year or the year after that. And then bringing businesses into the industrial park that create opportunities for local families to be successful close to home and not have to commute into Portland for good opportunities. I think we have a lot of area in the industrial park that is a big opportunity for us to be able to do that if we go out and bring good businesses in.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'm going to give each counselor an opportunity to ask one question. Try to make it quick and try to make it straightforward. But I will go with Jerry first. Jerry, go ahead. You want to go first?
One question to each or one question to all?
One question to each.
Oh, I didn't know this was gonna be a thing.
Yeah, kind of surprised.
So I wanted to give you an opportunity to weigh in, so.
I guess just the opportunity to weigh in with each other on what you've just heard, or if you have specific questions. Is that kind of what you're asking, Mayor?
Yeah, it was, if there's something that they're concerned with, I thought it might be good if they were able to ask that question.
I don't mean to interrupt. I think the purpose of us asking them the 3 questions, all of them the same, is that it's actually illegal for us to ask them separate questions if we were in a formal interview setting.
No, it's not
I mean,
illegal, but I'll
it-
tell you what, if they don't ask a question, I'm good with that.
It doesn't even.
I
have-
was trying to bring them in,
know.
especially Katie, because I know she's hit
I
me
actually have
before.
no questions.
All right, good.
I just had one question for each of the candidates. Who's planning on running for city council? Like, and during the election?
I am planning on running.
Okay.
Good,
Fair enough.
well, that's good. That's encouraging. All right, in that, I will give my recommendation and then you can see if it's what you like. We could discuss it or whatever the case may be. I have chosen Michael McRoy as my choice. I don't know if you're comfortable with that, if everybody's I mean, now's the time to speak. You don't agree? Okay.
I would agree with that. I think it seems like Michael understands kind of what we're up against as a city as far as growth is concerned. I think he can bring some things to the table for our group as a city council that would benefit us. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Well, I like some of Kurt's answers there about law enforcement. I think Mike had a really well-developed answers, and I really liked his answers in smart planning and traffic flow, and also the managing the growth. Really kind of grabbed my ears.
Okay, Paul?
I think about, I don't know if this is fair or not, but I think about the hole that was left when our other counselor resigned, and more of a global, broader approach. I think Michael would have been my second, but I thought John brought that more global approach as well too, with the talk, his comments about listening and listening to the people, doing what they want as that analytics ability, looking at the numbers, just the thoughts on growth and affordable income and housing as well too. And then just the understanding of some of the infrastructure issues as well too. So that would have been John, my first, Michael, my second.
Okay, Jerry?
Yeah, John would have been my choice, just the logical thinking, the analytical side of his brain. That's something that we definitely need up here. We need somebody that's going to make logical decisions, not emotional decisions. I know I'm not the shining example of that in the past, I think in the past few months, I've gotten back to that. I know for a couple of months I wasn't a shining example of that, but I think that's what we need up here is logical thinking and the ability to make unemotional decisions. And just from what I've seen and what I've, what my own personal research, John's that guy for me.
John is also my first choice, not only because of the answers that he gave tonight. I thought all candidates gave great answers tonight, but really also looking back on the statements that they gave us during their applications. John's application really stood out to me. Not only was it handwritten, which brought a certain level of personability to his application, but also, his language of wanting to be a part of the progress of solutions and of effective collaboration really spoke loudly to me as to the kind of team player he's going to be if we appointed him to this position. And that's what got me most excited about his application, and hearing his answers tonight really solidified that for me. I just want to say to anybody who brought up schools that the city council has nothing to do with schools, school growth, school performance, school anything. I think that it's a great goal as a city to work toward, but this wouldn't be the appropriate capacity to make that level of change. And we do have a school board that you could also run for if that's really where you wanted to see your most effective change. But personally, I really like John Calder and his application and his answers he gave.
Okay, well, I like that answer, except for the school part. Because if you think the city has nothing to do with the school, that's where you're wrong. But that's it. We will, where are we at with this? It's a tie. I mean,
Yeah, is there any, so we need according to the charter, a mayor or council vacancy shall be filled by appointment of a majority of the remaining council members. So we need to have 4 members of, it's nice to have a full consensus in one direction or another, but at least if 4 can come to consensus on one way or the other, would be great.
So one thing I really liked about Mike when I was listening to his talk is he seemed to line up a lot with what people in Estacada when they were talking about. They mentioned about family. They mentioned about he's working with the city. He mentioned about getting into some of the things that have come up recently, traffic flow, like we just put together a traffic and public safety committee. And the big thing is he also mentioned kids. A lot of it was about kids, which is an important thing, which we've all touched on at some point in the council. And it sounds like he's got a mind for that, which is something that I think is important because we have a lot of kids coming into the city and they take up a good portion. And I think it sounded like he has a kind of a straightforward, organized head on his shoulders based on the way he structured his answers. So I would give him credit for maybe being someone analytical I don't know what he does for work exactly. So then he's something about the industrial area, so. But you know, I think Mike had a real rounding to him. That's why I liked him, so.
Well, you had Michael as a second. Is that something that you would consider?
At this point, it would still be the second, and I do want to say, kind of echoing what Counselor Dunsmuir said, I just appreciate everyone for coming out. Man,
That's
this
good.
is, I've been through this position, what you guys are going through. It's very awkward to go through here. I guess I'd like to hear what Counselor Hughes says.
I'm gonna continue to stick to my first choice of Michael. And you know, again, it's hard because I didn't know our former counselor, Counselor Gates, extremely well, but if we're looking to kind of fill a hole or make a well-rounded council, you know, looking at Michael's application, I kind of, it seems that he fits that criteria a little bit better. I appreciated his answers. They were, like Counselor Leakey said, they were well formulated. He was well spoken. I do like that he's worked with cities and counties as far as working with codes and things like that, because that is very messy and can get very tedious. And if there's familiarity there, then there's not. I mean, this is something I've had to learn a lot in the past couple of years, because this was like all Greek to me at first. So if he's coming in with a little bit of knowledge, he's got kind of a leg up on that. I don't think he takes away from any of the other goals that John has. But yeah, I'm still sticking with Michael, so.
Okay.
That's where I'm at.
Oh. Back to you.
Back to me. Yeah, he would have been my number two. You know, from my standpoint, there would be no reason I would not want to do Michael, quite honestly. So my preference honestly would be John. If we went with Michael, I think he would be a good candidate as well too.
Okay, so go ahead, Kitty.
I want to say something as someone who has contributed to the learning curve that we as a council have been experiencing in the last couple of years as it relates to social media, not solely to blame, but contributed for sure. I think that for the next 5 months, being as politically non-frictional, non-confrontational, politically, or really a presence on social media has the ability to affect the perspective that people have of us individually and as a whole. And in the spirit of that, John Calder is the only person who I would personally put my vote behind.
So you're saying
I have seen stuff on Facebook and yeah. Therefore, John Calder is the only person who I haven't seen anything inflammatory on Facebook.
I don't think we're in the Facebook patrol category here. Somebody applies to
We
be on this committee.
we have to do our research, though. We have to do our
I
research. on
think
all
we
of
have
these
done our
categories.
research. I
And
think we
people
know.
hold me to the standard of what's on my Facebook. I mean, just look at the recall petition. I'm held to that standard, so I could, the applicants.
Can I speak to that, Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you seen a Facebook post from me in the last 2 years?
I don't even know where you
Well, I
go on
just-
Facebook.
Someone spoke to that. So I can tell you that since the fires happened in town, I haven't made a Facebook post in over 2 years. So I made a decision to go away from that a long time ago. But I don't know what post you're referring to, but there wasn't one within the last several years. I could tell you that.
Oh, I totally know what it is.
Yeah.
I get it. Pitchforks and torches, right, Katie?
Exactly.
Yeah,
We
but
all
hey,
learn,
hey,
we all
no,
learn from our
hey,
mistakes, don't we?
Guys, this isn't about that. And that's irrelevant here. She shouldn't have brought that to the table anyway. I know. Let's not go there. Let's not go there, people. Let's keep
It
this
is,
civil.
it is important. I think when somebody becomes a city councilor, then they do have to be careful on social media.
And that's why we
but
have
that's-
ethics that we go
Yeah, we'll
to
have some
train
training.
us properly.
I do appreciate Michael, his comment. I appreciate you speaking up so that we can know that that's not something that you're, it wouldn't be a big change in your life if, you're on the city council.
Yeah.
So,
Not at all. I
I'm not
don't
gonna
plan on
discuss that.
going back to doing.
Paul, it's back to you again. I already know what you're gonna say.
I just think people are personally accountable for their own social media as to the constituents, and shouldn't be a factor when it comes down to the city council. I think it's something they're individually accountable to, so.
Yeah. But that said, Paul, it's back to you. We already know where they stand.
Why am I even here?
We already know where you stand, Sherry. You just made it clear that you want him, right?
You haven't asked me a single question.
Are you
since
gonna
my initial
talk
statement.
against me in council?
Yeah.
Is that where we're going with this?
Yes. Yeah,
Then
because
let's
you
talk about ethics here. Okay?
Point of
Sherry?
order, Mr. Mayor,
Point of order, you're gonna call point of order
Yes,
on
I
me?
am. Point of order, Mr. Mayor. You've had everybody else talk. 2
Speak,
times
Jerry.
since the
Speak.
last time.
Speak about what you'd like to see. Go ahead.
Okay. To Joel's point about talking about children's safety.
It's not about Joel.
No, okay, I'm speaking to Joel's point. I have that right to speak to Joel's point.
Speak to Joel.
Speaking to Joel's point about children's safety, John also spoke to that during his question and answer time tonight. So I'm not going to hold that part against him. John also, in my opinion, is the only person that I will vote for in this.
That's exactly why I didn't call on you.
You
because
don't have.
You made
that
it very
right.
clear.
But you don't have that right. sir.
You made it very clear.
But
She
you don't
raised her
have that
hand to
right,
speak.
sir. But you don't have that right. sir.
Well, your right and my right are different. aren't
so far we are still
Paul,
3-3.
back to you.
Nobody wants to move. Either way.
We table it and go back out for more applications.
Now,
We
Paul
have such a
has
short
chance to
amount
say
of
something.
time.
Say
It's a
something.
very
Paul.
short amount. I think we have some good applicants here.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, you recognize Paul. Can we move on with?
Yeah, sorry.
I wanted to hear if there's any procedural thing that we've done in the past.
Flip a coin. I mean, I think there is no, the procedure is that we need to come to a majority of the council being able to choose one person. And I think we do have some good applicants here that could fill a spot for 5 months. Some of them are going to run and, in the election and this weekend. I think I don't want to discount. I think you all have valid reasons for making the choices that you've made. But if there's anyone who would be, willing to compromise, go one way or the other, I would just recommend that.
No.
Just in the spirit of compromise. And to move this along, recognizing that we've got 5 months here, I really appreciate it again, all comments, all input. I'd be willing to bump Michael up.
Okay. So we have 4.
I move to appoint Mike McElroy to the council position.
You want to do a roll call vote?
Sure, let's do that.
Need a second?
That's a hard thing, I know, so I appreciate the back and forth and trying to weigh it out. It's a difficult thing, so.
Did we have a second?
Yeah,
A second.
I'm Charity second.
Counselor Dunsmere,
No,
Counselor Hughes. Yes. Counselor Lidkey,
Yes.
Counselor Strobel,
Yes.
Counselor Tenbush,
No.
Mayor Drinkwine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you for that. All right, we're up to the next citizen and community group comment. And since you got to sit through all that, and you're up, Kim Trujillo.
As I say, every time I'm up here, I really appreciate all of what you guys do.
Yeah.
Seriously, what your commitment to the city and taking away from your families and other things that you do is really incredible. So, just so you know, I did attend the planning commission on the 20th. It was the first time I ever attended the planning commission, and it was really insightful and exciting to hear and see what they felt and how they thought. Counselor Strobel was there, and so that was really great because he was able to help answer some questions. They are really opposed to the whole dispensary idea, and they have their reasons for it. But you know, when partway through the meeting, they said, you know, half of the town is going to like us and half of the town's going to hate us. So, you know, it just depends on where you sit. They are still serving the community, and they have some really valid points. And so I think that by scouring through their questions, and Taylor has notes, and I'm sure Melanie does too, I'm positive you guys will come up with, and gals will come up with a solution. However, after attending that meeting and those folks raising concerns, I decided that I needed some clarification my own self. So I called an attorney. And therefore you have a letter today. Because even though I'm a student of the industry, I've been involved for more than 10 years. We don't know everything. Things change from year to year. We've been going through with the city council this process for a long time, and we've come a long way. So the fact that I made a phone call to educate myself and spend money to educate the council is really, I feel, the motive of what I've done, not anywhere near close to being a litigator. That is, to me, slanderous, derogatory, and insulting. And it literally diminishes the last 2 years of the effort that I've made to come before you, to educate you, to inform you, to advocate for our town, to advocate for an industry that makes a really big difference in our state. So with that said, I'd like to address a couple of the concerns that you guys brought up in the letter. And I'd like to go back to the actual June 13th meeting that the city council had, where I sent a really long email to you guys. Melanie has it, and hopefully you guys got to see it. But this is the actual notes that you guys got in the packet. And one of the questions that I had regarding the application process was my concern about the questions that are in here. I'm going to read them for the record. So this was the discussion. Peter Watts, city attorney, and Matt Molinas, OLCC board member, will discuss best practices and options with the council to determine how to proceed with the application process for cannabis retail business to be approved and
Can I interrupt you
investigated.
just 1 second?
Yeah.
That buzzer states that you're over your time limit. I'm gonna let you keep going there,
Okay.
but if you're gonna speed it.
Yes. So this is the potential criteria that's listed in your guys' packet. Do you have an OLCC recreational marijuana license? 5 points per license. Is your business a woman-owned / run business or a minority-owned run business? 10 points. Do you currently operate a business in the city of Estacada? 10 points. Have you been audited by the IRS or Oregon Treasury Department? 5 points. Were adjustments made to your return? 5 points. And then there's 2 narrative answers or questions. The problem that I have with this is none of the other businesses that are in this town have had to go through this process. It's bogus and it's unfair, to be quite honest. If you guys, as a council, want to pick somebody to run a business, great. Here's some questions that I have, and I won't read them, but they're in an email. And I would recommend that you look through them. It needs to be hopefully fair. And because how the point of talking about just the process or you know, the most benefit, it kind of sides bribey. And in my opinion, why Commissioner Molinas was out in Estacada on a night with the city attorney. And talking about the things that they were talking about a dispensary and the taxes. I did a little bit of research on that. And the bottom line is if somebody's if a dispensary is 30 days past making their payment to the Oregon Department of Revenue, they are in trouble. They don't, so that all of that has been shaken out. All of that's over with. So there shouldn't be held or favored somebody that's already been in business, like all of the big boys and girls. Maybe there's girls, not that I know of anymore. They've all abandoned ship. But in any case, it should be fair and it shouldn't be based on city attorneys, OLCC commissioners, and all of that. It should be you guys. This is where we live, people who want to run businesses in the town we live, where we've, raised our kids so that we can actually potentially not only have the privilege to open a dispensary, but serve our community, and includes the people that don't want a dispensary here. That's even more important than those who do. And respect those people and listen to those people and educate those people. That's my passion. I've lived here a long time. I don't want a dispensary to change our town. So all I'm asking is that you, the city council, because you've done so much work and have been so awesome all the way through this process, actually, verify how you're going to do an application, what the questions are going to be, what the criteria is going to be, and not like who makes the most greatest offer to the city council. I have all the confidence in the world that will be me anyway, but to be fair and open and honest, I think that it should just, the application part should be clear. The last comment that I would like to make is, because we've gone through this process for so long and it's been quite painful, and I'm sure you guys would agree, is that time's running out. And if somebody's going to have to go through an application process, it should be you, the ones that are sitting here who've been through this process all the way to make the decision. Not anybody who could be elected after the beginning of the year. Not that they wouldn't make a good decision, but they just haven't been through what you guys have been through and learned and have come to appreciate the many hours of the meeting. So with that said, I appreciate you. I am not litigating you. I promise I'm not bringing any kind of cause like that. That's not my motive or intent, and it never has been. If you have questions about the letter, you'd like to talk to me privately, I'm totally open to that. And with that, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, we are now at mayor and council reports. So I will start off with you, Jerry.
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you guys for applying. Really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see you guys in the voters pamphlet and see your names on the ballots this coming up election year. So thank you guys, and thank you staff. Amazing packet as always, and great work. Thank you so much.
Katie.
I appreciate the level of diversity that we're going to see on our voters pamphlet or our voters ballot this year. And I just want to thank everybody for sticking with us this whole meeting. It's been a long one, and everyone's been troopers. Thank you again, staff.
Yeah, again, thank you for all that came out and applied for the open position. I wish you the best of luck running for the positions that will be opening up starting this coming year as well too. And then also just saw a note that came through, kind of a side note, but an important one for us. Decata, Mount Hood National Forest is banning campfires beginning on Wednesday as well too. It's important to get the word out on that.
Joel.
It's a long meeting, long day. I mean, we started back at dinner at like 4:30 or so. So nobody's real tired. I think there's a level of expectation of a city councilor when it comes down to sitting up here. And I think one of the important things is to try to maintain order and maintain our actions. That means following Robert's rules, waiting to be recognized, holding respect for the chair, and avoiding outbursts on emotional areas. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I've taken some licks and been able to hold my tongue. And I expect that, my fellow counselors should be able to do the same thing. And I was a little disappointed in how the room went tonight. And I'd hope that we as counselors could be respectful of the rules, respectful of the order that we have here so that we can, maintain a process and so that we can, that we can work together. That's why they're there, so we don't erupt into chaos. And so I'm hoping that moving forward that we can try to, get back into the Roberts rules, waiting to be recognized, point of orders if we see it out of place, and holding our comments until, a private conversation, something you don't agree with. But yeah, that's all I say. Everybody else, congratulations to Mike. We look forward to welcoming you next month, and everybody that did apply, you guys did a great job. There's a lot of questions there. It was a lot of good choices. Everybody said great things about kids. I know some people don't recognize, Rhonda, for example, talked about kids and things too. And yes, John did too. I made notes about it as well. So thank you guys for coming out and sticking through it. And we look forward to seeing you guys in future meetings and sticking around because the election's coming up. So please keep coming to the meetings and stay involved because it's important to know the history of what's going on if you're going to be on the ballot and get elected in. So thanks.
All right, thank you. Charity.
So I just want to thank all the applicants as well. Like my fellow counselors mentioned. I have been in your position. I was in your position and it was really awkward, super awkward. And I did not get on. And so I ran. So I just want to encourage you, yes, just because you're not getting in for this 5-month period to get on the ballot, if this truly is your passion, then I would really, really just encourage you to move forward with that. So with that said, thank you again for sticking with it tonight, long night. Appreciate your comments at the end there. I really do. And staff, thank you for a good packet. I hope next meeting things will be a little more calm and peaceable. I know we can all get along. I know it can happen. And we do get really passionate. But yeah, we do need to just bring it back to a level of maturity and professionalism. I get the passion. I truly, truly do. I really do. I feel it in my soul a lot of times in here. I may not see it or, see it on my face, or I may not say it, but yeah. So a level of professionalism, I would agree with Counselor Lickey. Yeah, so I thank everybody for coming tonight. I thank my counselors for all their input, for the mayor for your input. And thank you, Melanie, as always, for kind of bringing us back together with sort of we can come to a consensus on something and giving us a little bit of direction. So I appreciate that a lot. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Charity. And on that note, I want to thank the audience for putting up with our meeting tonight. I know it was a little out there at times. The only person to blame here is me. I'm the mayor. I sat here for a reason. I chair this seat. So if I lost control of my council, that's on me. Okay, so just remember that when you're out there. That's my job to do that. And if I had miscommunication with my counselor, it's due to my problem. I did it. I didn't communicate well enough. I didn't acknowledge him like I should have. And that was on me. So I'm sorry for that. And you had to sit through that. But in that, I also want to thank staff for everything they do and putting up with everything that we do. You're great. You're great at everything you do. And we appreciate every night that you come out here and sit through us and deal with our different feelings. In that said, I appreciate everyone here and I appreciate the fact that you're all a part of the system. And I want to thank Mike for applying and congratulations on getting the position. In that, I say good night. And we are going to stick around and go into a real property transaction. So none of you need to be here for that. It's executive session. So we appreciate you.
Okay, so if you so choose, the motion would be, I move to approve the sale of 401 Southeast Main to Gary and Donnell Evans for the amount discussed in executive session and authorize city manager Melanie Wagner to execute the sale.
So moved.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Second, okay.
Seconded.
And like I said, let's do a roll call.
And Paul is going to say something.
I'm just gonna step up and recuse myself.
Okay, good.
Counselor Dunsmere,
Yes.
Counselor Hughes. Yes. Counselor Lidkey,
Yes.
Counselor Tenbush,
Yes.
Mayor Drinkline.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you.
All right, thank you,
Congratulate them
everybody.
on that. We appreciate that.
All right. And this meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned. There you go.
Oh. All right, thank you so much for